Sure.
This
Okay.
meeting is being recorded.
Okay, Fatima, can you please mute yourself, or I will mute you. It's okay as well. Okay, so yeah, very welcome to our webinar. We'll be trying to talk today and discuss as much as possible. As I said, let us make it extremely interactive because we are so few. And I hope that will be actually even, yeah, even more helpful for you, that you get actually really as many questions answered as possible. And I'll try to go slow, so we have anyway enough time. And if I'm 5 minutes late or something like that, I hope you will not yeah, be extremely unhappy with me. So as I said, every single question you have, don't write in the chat, just grab please your mic and let us do that way, that we can be really discussing everything what can be discussed. Okay? Because I killed right now the chat. So please let us just talk. Okay, so the idea behind it is that we are, as I said, trying to discuss as much as how to address the feedback, which will be in your case actually, because as understood, the majority of you is close to or just past the Viva. So we are, or you are actually kind of expecting the feedback, which will be done now based on the Viva as well as on the thesis itself, because the examiners have read the thesis, so they're totally and completely aware of everything what you have done in your thesis. So the structure, yeah, as I said, understanding how to read, interpret the Viva examination report, that's the first thing. We'll spend quite some time here. Then how to respond to those changes, and maybe a little bit about there's the difference between the linear and isolated changes. It depends what and how they have seen actually your thesis. They might ask for single, let's say, improvements, or they might come and say, you know, your methodology is not fitting to your results, or your research questions are not justified by the literature review. And if something like that comes, then actually will be totally a different case. Then you will have to probably go from one chapter to another and improve those things. So it is kind of, yeah, as I said, depends what was the quality perceived by your examiners. The comments, let's say requests, can be done in a different way, and we will discuss that a little bit as well. So the structure, what I want to do is first to present how we, let's say as examiners, or generally how the examiners see what Viva is for and what we are trying actually to assess and see, because that's, I guess, quite an important thing. I mean, Sarah has just passed it, so she might have some comments on that, but the others might be actually engaged in a Viva sooner or later. So it's important to understand that how the examiners see Viva and what is the purpose of the Viva. Then let us talk a little bit about what can be the different outcomes, because different outcomes will be strongly linked to that, how much effort will be kind of requested from your side actually to improve everything. Then I will present a few examples how my students have addressed the Viva, the comments which were done, let's say after the Viva and the written report. And then I have just one slide, once again, based on one nice experience once I had with one of my students who was not so really happy with the revision, and I will just bring one of her answers, which we have kind of yeah, changed a little bit to make it everything kind of, you know, the whole discussion, how should I say, a little bit more nice and kind and soft. So that's important as well, how you write the replies, that you kind of actually not kind of fight with the examiners. And I'll tell you why it makes no sense to fight Okay, so let us go now to the first part where I will be trying to explain how we see the Viva. And let us discuss it. Maybe Sarah, you can actually help me in that. You will be, are we seeing proper, or should I swap? How do we see now? Do we see a full screen?
Yes, sir, we can.
Now you can see full screen. Okay, perfectly fine. Thanks. So where are we right now? Actually, we are, let me find, we are kind of at the stage where the thesis was submitted. That's it. What is today? I forgot actually how that goes. We are actually at the stage when we are kind of trying to finish actually our thesis, and then we are sending it for examination after it has been approved by the usually your supervisors as well as the university committee. Then the thesis was sent to the examiners, done, and then, as we said, Viva is there. I will not be talking too much about the Viva, but I'll be talking actually what happens after the Viva. But in the first part, I will be kind of linking the Viva to your thesis, and as I said, how the examiners are seeing actually your thesis and how do they react in that. After that, after the Viva has been hopefully successfully passed, the examiners will put together their examiner's report, which will be kind of partly influenced by the written part of the thesis, as well as partly by your Viva and your answers which you have given actually during the Viva. And then when that comes to the university, the report will be sent to you and your supervisors, and then you will have to work actually on the revision of the thesis. And that is kind of what we are trying to talk about today, how you should do that, how you should address actually all the comments. And after that has been done, then you will be kind of resubmitting or sending the revised thesis to the examiners once again, or maybe just to the head of the postgraduate studies. It depends what was written or what the examiners picked. Do they want to read that once again, what you have done or not? That depends actually on their view of your thesis. If the thesis was, let's say, written in a good way as they perceive it, then they probably will even not bother to read your comments once again. But if they were really not extremely happy with it, they will probably ask you that they want to read it once again, and based on that, you will be asked to. I mean, the university will send it once again to them, and they might come once again with another set of comments. But it depends, as I said, how the things are running. So, see, it worked. It does not work today. It looks like. Okay, that's strange. How can I do that? Sometimes it does not work. So I will not be able to use that too much. Annotate. What do I have to do now? Clear my drawings. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that will work or not. Sometimes it does not work, and that's really a pity actually that I cannot annotate. So let us go how we see actually a Viva. Because what is Viva? Viva is actually an oral, and I don't know how it was in your case, Sarah, was it public as well? But at many universities, it is public, so you can get actually quite a big audience. And based on that, you will be answering actually to the questions. And the questions can come even from the audience. So that is sometimes like that. As I said, I don't know how it was in your case.
No, mine was just the examiners.
Okay, just the examiners. Okay, many universities have that as well, and then yeah, sometimes can get even unpleasant when there's a fight between different, let's say, professors, and they are involving kind of the students into that. So I have seen a Viva which was kind of 7 hours discussion, but the discussion was kind of mostly done between the two professors who were not really friends, and things like that. So yeah, there are different ways. So if that is just between the candidates and the examiners, is kind of the best way, I would say. But what you have to do actually is, I wrote here, defense, that you really are able to defend your study and your results, that you show that you do understand actually and have knowledge about your research area. That is really important. That is what we are trying to see. And yeah, finally, we will ask you as well, what is, I mean, in most of the cases, what is the contribution to knowledge? So you have to understand that as well. And that goes actually, once again, you know, through the literature review and through your discussion and things like that. So those are the questions which are asked. And based on that, we can assess how good you do understand actually your topic, how much you were definitely involved into that. And I'm talking about involved actually on purpose, because one of the important areas why Vivas are there is the plagiarism as well. Unfortunately, things are happening which are not so nice, and you have more and more of contract cheating, which is sometimes present even within the DBA and PhD research. So that's why it's one of the really important areas that we do see that you, as we said, understand what you have done, how you have done it, how you have discussed your results, and what's your contribution. So that is the idea as well. I mean, as I said, plagiarism or contract cheating is getting more and more important, and we are putting actually more and more focus on that as well. I mean, different universities are approaching to this case in a different way, but yeah, it has to be done. So what do we actually kind of expect that you, let's say, students are able to do during the Viva? Let us go through that as well. So what we expect is that you do understand. I'll try once again with the pen, okay? I hope it will work. That you do understand what you have done, that you are able to interpret every single question we'll be asking you, that you are able to justify why you have done it, explain in detail how you have done it, and finally defend everything what you have actually performed. And that goes actually around the research area. It is about the literature review and the literature in the area or around the area, let's say. Many times we will go towards the methodology, because we have seen that many times the students are really not too aware of the methodology they have performed, especially whenever we are talking about the quantitative methodology that the students are kind of trying to get a little bit too much help. And you should definitely explain how you reached to the results and what are the results actually contributing to. So these things are extremely important that you are aware of it. And I mean, it's no issue, because theoretically, you don't have to be nervous or whatsoever. I always say, you have done it, or every single student, and that is really important. I hope Sarah will actually support me. In her case, it looks like was that even more important. Whatever you have done, you know how you have done it. Even if it was not done, let's say, maybe in the best possible way, it doesn't matter. You have done it, and you can actually explain why and how you have done it. And based on that, we'll be theoretically happy. That means we know that you have done it. We know that there can be some, let's say, limitations or some weaknesses. We can actually work on them after the Viva, and after that, the thesis will be as it should be. So it's Viva, I'll talk about that a little bit later on. It's really a should I say, enjoyment theoretically. It should be an enjoyment. And in many cases, the students were kind of really happy after the Viva. If the fit, the match, let's say, between the examiners and the student and the topic was kind of given. So another thing what I want to say is why we can evaluate or why we can assess the topic in a proper way. And that is actually linked to the process of the selection. Because, I mean, I'm sorry, Sarah, what you just said 5 minutes ago, it looks like that was not in your case, but theoretically, the universities do select actually the examiners which are experts in your research area, definitely. As I mentioned, usually we are searching for a match in the area as well in the methodology. And majority in many universities, that is even a criteria that examiners have already examined some of the theses. So that's important as well. So they have experience in that. That means you are not the first student who is there. And they know how to assess that. You know, we many times, I mean, whenever I have done that, I have even actually picked, let's say, a little bit older guys because they have done it more often and they see it more from the, let's say, overall perspective than the younger ones who are really picky and are trying actually to show that they do understand every single word and that they do understand how it should be done in a better way. So there are different, let's say, ideas, even how we do select the examiners. Another thing which is quite important for me is that you do understand that we read actually the thesis in detail. So I really read every single word and I'm trying to understand it. How we do that usually, for example, if I'm reading it, I read it in 2 days. So I really take a weekend and I read actually in 2 days the thesis because after I have done it, I have a good picture of it and I know what should be, in my view, kind of changed, improved, how we can revise to make it even better. So we are actually, let's say, really familiar. Then we have to assess the thesis based on a specific criteria, which is given by university. So that makes us comparable. We go through these criteria and we actually apply them. I do write, when I read, actually, I write notes in order that I get ready for the Viva as well, because I want to have questions which are really linked and the questions are linked to the areas which might be a little bit weaker or I did not understand exactly what has been done, how it has been done or whatsoever. So that you give me actually explanation on those uncertainties we do have. And based on that, we will do recommendations. And those recommendations are really linked just with the quality. Let's say we really are trying to make the thesis even better. That's the idea behind it. Okay, that's the first of interest and to help the student, let's say. And the second thing is definitely we were invited to do actually a proper assessment. And kind of I see that as my duty and responsibility because, you know, after reading or assessing many different theses, it is kind of important that you are holding a standard that across the world, let's say, the standard should be kind of, similar, that not some, let's say, areas or some universities or some countries are taking that in a little bit easier way than the other ones. And that is kind of not fair, at least in my view. And the last sentence, what I wrote here is, and I said, we will do that in a proper way. So the assessment you are getting is in most of the cases really a good one, and it will help you to improve your thesis. So maybe you do not agree with then this slide, what I have put actually together here. As I said, Sarah, you can actually help me right now. But theoretically, I have always said that to my students before the Viva. You should as it's written here, exactly that. You should understand and appreciate what the examiners are doing for you, for us. That means as a team, supervisor, student. Because in most of the cases, in all of the cases, we are asked, would you like to examine this thesis? And you do it because you are interested in the topic. You read the abstract and say, yeah, I would like to know more. I would like to do that. Because in most of the cases, we even don't get any money. So we are not doing it because of the money. And even the money, which is actually so less that, it's better to go for a walk. So we are interested. We would like to help. That's the first thing. We do enjoy reading a good thesis. So whenever, you're reading a good thesis, you're really enjoying it. You see how it was actually conceptualized. You see actually what is the literature you're saying it. You see the research gaps. You see the research questions. You are enjoying it. So, and based on this, let's say, excitement, you are just trying to do some comments in order to make it even better. And as I said, learn. We usually learn from each of the theses because usually it's a totally novel thing. And based on that, I'm kind of keen to get new insights. And as I said, excited to read it and interested in that. And the last sentence is really, really there. And don't believe me that big majority of us are really actually just trying to make it even better. That means all the comments which are coming are not there because to fight you, to bother you, but are there in order to help you to improve it even further. I know most of the cases we don't even want to improve it anymore because that whenever you have set it out, you say, wow, finally it's out. I don't want to touch it even more. But yeah, that's it. You are entering the academia, and that is the way actually how we deal with it, with you now as kind of, actually one of us. And that's always, discussions in academia are sometimes unpleasant, but are always kind of rewarding. So once again, as I said, therefore, you should first of all understand and appreciate what they are doing, and be happy actually what we are trying to do after we have read and after we have discussed with you actually all the uncertainties, let's say, during the Viva. So appreciate that somebody who is interested has read it, has given you really constructive feedback. And during the Viva, and that's for me the most important part, it should be seen as a really an exciting, what I wrote here, and intellectual, exciting academic intellectual discussion. In most of the cases is like that, because it is a discussion. It is not, we are not trying to see whether you or show that you don't understand some things. No, but we are really trying to have a good, interesting discussion. And usually, as I said, after the Viva, the students are really happy because they see that they can actually answer the majority of the questions. And that's so important for them. Finally, they have seen, I can answer. I know what I have done. I exactly can, discuss almost on the same level with those professors or experts in that area. So it is a rewarding thing. See it that way. But I talk about the other part of the let's say feelings after you have got it back, let's say, or that you have received the feedback. It goes a little bit in another direction. Everything clear so far? Am I too slow? Am I too fast? Am I talking things which are not of interest? Just tell me. Tell me something. How it goes. Okay. So the next one. Yeah, we said, what are the possible outcomes? You know that. They're a little bit different at different universities, but generally that is what I put actually on this slide here. It's no revision, minor revision, major revision, then major revision with additional Viva. That means resubmitting. That was really, really, a heavy thing. That means it is really a major revision because we want to have you changed a lot before we will question you once again. And the last one is fail, but really we don't want to fail any of the students. Because, you know, that's another actually perspective maybe I haven't mentioned. That, see, I see, how should I say, when the thesis is really not written in a good way, should I say that way, that is in most of the cases not linked to the student. But I see that actually the supervisors have failed in supervising, because the students are usually interested and yeah, ready actually to work hard. But if things are going wrong, especially let's say in the methodology section or in the discussion section or at different parts or research questions, justification, things like that, that means that the supervisor was not engaged or was not at the level in order to bring the student to a level which will be kind of, yeah, complying to the, let's say, international standards for a PhD. So that's really important. So that's why we usually do not want to fail a student, because we don't see the issue with the student, but we see the issue, yeah, with the supervisors. So once again, we never go into a Viva in order to fail the student, never. Rather, the opposite, we are trying to understand why, let's say, the weakness is there. And based on that, we will actually prepare and adjust the report. So don't go into Viva and be scared that you will fail or something like that. That's not the idea behind it. Okay, and after the Viva has completed, we will sit together, we will discuss, let's say, yeah, the outcome of the Viva. We will discuss the outcome, how we have perceived actually the thesis, and based on that, you will get a report where there will be suggested revisions, as well as some of them will be requested, so mandatory to be done. And the feedback report will definitely provide you with some of the comments will be kind of general, but majority will be really detailed, and we will kind of ask, we will kind of clearly say what should be done, what should be changed, what should be improved, what should be strengthened, as well as the university will give you actually the time. Usually it's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. These are actually, yeah, generally the periods, depending on the level of the revision, you will be given to improve your thesis. And as we said, general or detailed list. And usually we will go with, especially when it is a minor, we'll be talking about maybe some language or maybe some smaller structural things to be improved. Sometimes we'll just go close, let's say, I don't know, introduction, chapter 1, section 2 or something like that should be improved, should be revised or whatsoever. These are small things. But if that, and I'll talk about that, goes a little bit farther, that will be kind of major substantive revisions, then it's a different case as well, where you say, okay, theoretically the outcome, let's say the results and the conclusions will remain the same, but you have to work on the conceptualization, or you have to work actually on your hypothesis or something like that. That's one part. The more unpleasant part is what is actually the last bullet point talking about, is when we are even asking that you do some additional research, what would mean that you will need actually a little bit more time, that you will have to rewrite probably methodology, you will might have to rewrite the results, and definitely the discussion and contribution and things like that. So when it comes so far, that was really kind of a major revision needed. And usually in this case, you will be asked to present once again. But as I said, the next slide will go a little bit in more detail, what might be kind of the minor revisions. In this case, for example, just reformatting of the chapters, that happens many times. I just had a Viva in December, mid of December, and that is exactly what I said. I said the literature review has to be rewritten Many sections there are theoretically not needed. I don't want to read actually about history of whatsoever if it's not contributing. I don't want to read about, I don't know what area if it's actually not contributing. So that was, for example, one of the things in the literature review chapter, for example. Then many times we are asking to make the methodology clearer, to explain that in a better way. Many times actually there is not a clear way how that was done. So that's why I usually ask the students to use one of the, let's say, research methodology models where the steps are clear and they learn through that quite a lot and then give that actually in a proper way as well. Yeah, missing references, that is actually quite a clear thing and it happens many, many times, but that's really a small thing. Many times the references are done in a not in a proper way and things like that, but these are always small things, and even or whatever is kind of about grammar, spelling, that can happen, but usually even not, because in most of the cases the theses are proofread and those things are not there. But if we go a little bit farther, kind of with major revisions, that is then a little bit more unpleasant for all of us, especially when you start with the conceptualization. I mean, it happens many, many times, unfortunately. And the conceptualization, that is, yeah, should I say, kind of a linear thing, because if the conceptualization is wrong, probably, or we don't see it done in a proper way, then many other chapters will have to be actually adjusted as well. Because that will probably mean that you will have to yeah, work in the literature. For example, you can say refocus the literature review, because I don't see that you have worked actually, or that you have actually worked out your research gaps in a proper way, kind of, you know, or many times there's no justification for the research questions. It has to be done. And that will be, yeah, quite, yeah, I don't know, 2 weeks or something like that, probably, of work, especially if it's linked to the conceptualization and things like that. So as I said, I wanted to present here what might be a little bit the bigger, let's say, revisions, kind of major revisions, especially, for example, when we ask additional analysis of data, you know, it's not clear. It's not really supporting. It's not answering the research question, or the methodology was not in a proper way, and things like that. And one of the really actually common mistakes, let's say, or strong weaknesses in many PhDs and DBAs is discussion. Because in the discussion, as you know, you are presenting really your contribution. And too often, the discussions are extremely weak. And that is kind of, as I said, often we do comment that the discussion has to be strengthened. But that is linked once again to the quality of the supervisors, as I said, because usually when the supervisors are really experienced, have done actually a lot of research by themselves, they know how the things should be done. And usually you see that actually with the good supervisors, the students, I mean, good supervisors is kind of, yeah, a guarantee that the PhD will be written in a good way as well. That does not mean that the student was not sweating because of that. But when it comes to the examination, we are happy with it. And we say perfectly fine, that was well done. So it's always good, especially for the ones who are still in the beginning, let's say, of your PhD, think about good supervisors. Okay. So next thing I would like to mention is, after you have received, let's say, the examiner's report, you will see actually what they are requesting. And don't forget, now a few things which are mentioned here, and we'll talk about them in more detail based on the next slides. You have to do all the corrections. I used here capital all, okay? All. You cannot go out there and pick just the nice ones or the easy ones. Just no go. Because at the end, I'll mention that as well, you will usually have to have, we have a, I don't know, Excel table or a Word table where you have actually in the first column all the comments, and then you have to present how you have addressed them and where is the evidence for that. So you have to address all of them. It doesn't matter how pleasant or unpleasant they will be or were, you have to do that. So you have to understand them, what is there. That's why it's good that you discuss them with your supervisors. They might help you. If something is not clear, then you can go back to, not you usually, the university does that. The HDR office or the supervisors can contact the examiners and they will provide you with actually more detailed explanation of their requests. Then after you have done that, that means everything is clear, what you have to change, what you have to adjust, what you have to, whatever is improve, really prepare a clear plan. Timetable, okay? For the, it depends, as we said, 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. How you will do that based on the time, okay? You have to have that and stick please to that. Stick to that. Push yourself because the time runs extremely fast and engage your supervisors as much as possible, okay? That will actually give you confidence and that give you actually pace that you will be revising everything what has been requested quite smoothly. Okay, and as I said, the last one is made on time. Do not postpone. I just have right now a student, it's not my student, I'm just kind of engaged through the DoctorateHub to help him. Yeah, he's too slow and we are having big issues. What will be done and how fast can it be done? So that's just no go. It takes time. So make a plan and follow it. Yeah, and now I brought another kind of, I will not go into detail, but probably everybody of us who has done a PhD went through a unpleasant, let's say, emotional voyage. And that is kind of showing where are we right now. And in this case, with the PhD or DBA defense, you are on the motivational scale actually quite high. But as I said, after you have read the examiner's reports, usually that sucks. And it goes quite low once again. So expect that, and all of you will be, the majority will be unhappy because we always expect that thesis was really written in a good way and you do not expect actually comments. But doesn't matter. After Viva has been passed, you are almost there. That's really actually the yeah, should I say, break-even point almost. It will take a while, but it has been almost done. And how it goes, that's actually a nice 7-step, let's say, should I say, model, how we feel or how the students feel after they have received the feedback on their thesis. Definitely outrage and some words which are usually not really nice. Then you will just don't understand it. What's going on? I mean, that cannot be, that's not possible, you know. And after you are in that stage or at that stage, it will be getting even a little bit worse. So at those 1, 2, 3, maybe during the first one, don't talk too much with your supervisors, but during the step 2 and 3, you should actually contact them because they will comfort you a little bit. And then you will, you know, come to a more, let's say the passion and emotions will be slowly, yeah, disappearing, will be weaker, and then you will understand actually the 4th is actually the way forward, where you will be saying 1 or 2 comments might make sense. And at that point, you will understand that what I said before, it is really done in a way that the things are getting more and more and better and higher quality, definitely. And then, yeah, 5 is a nice one. You will understand that, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe they are right. It's probably not so bad. And then you will actually kind of, yeah, just surrender and say, I'll do everything. And after everything has been done, you will read that once again. And then you will understand why the examiners were extremely unpleasant, extremely demanding, extremely not understanding your topic, extremely whatever it is. Okay, after you have finished, after those 3 months, 6 months, or maybe even 1 year, you will understand what and why it has happened. And don't forget, the next stage is usually publishing. And that is what we are having in mind as well. It's better that I start giving, let's say, advice how to improve your thesis now, then afterwards, when actually the papers might not be accepted and things like that. So that's another positive, actually, I would say, step while you are revising, that you understand why they're doing that, because it will, yeah, ease the way of discussion, of publication as well. Okay. Are you still with me? Any questions?
No question. We are here still.
Okay. So I don't know. You just ask questions. I mean, if I don't know if I'm still explaining something what is of interest for you or not, is it helping or not? I have no idea.
It's really helpful.
I try to prepare you, Sarah, a little bit, okay, on that what is coming. So just don't forget, as I said, those few steps, you will definitely have them. Everybody has them. So yeah, and now I'm actually with the more practical way, let's say, where I'm really trying to, yeah, show you how it should be done. So all these cases are actually my students. So I kind of, you know, I mean, not mine when I was in charge of the PhD program. So I will tell you which ones were mine, just one actually. But yeah, I was kind of engaged in that, so I knew quite well the PhDs and the DBAs, and it was always interesting, you know. Whenever I was actually in charge of the program, I read all the DBAs and PhDs before they were sent out to the examination, and I gave actually the final, not let's say the final, even after the supervisor's approval, I gave some comments. But I was not, I didn't want to push on the students, but really often the same comments came actually by the examiners. So some of them have, yeah, improved after my feedback. Some of them have not really improved strongly because they said the supervisors were happy. So let us send it to examination. But you see actually the relation, how you see and how the examiners are seeing stuff. So good examiners see many things. But as I said, these are now really comments which were coming from different examiners. For example, there's a simple one. The title section of record A, B should be research gaps and not research gap. You know, it's a clear one. That means it's just a spelling, nothing else, or grammatical problem. And then you will, as I said, all of you should, I mean, that's what I always really kind of recommend the students and request for my students. The first column is the, examiner, okay, but the important one is list all the comments which were in the examiner's report. And then you have to respond to all of them, and you have to show how that was, where it was done. And what I ask my students is that they highlight all the changes in the topic, in the thesis, with another color of text. I'll show you how that looks like. Because based on that, the examiners see that you have actually really tackled every single comment, how you have responded to it, and where it can be found. And whenever they kind of open the thesis, they see actually in different color what has been done. And they can just really check few of those and say, okay, done in a proper way. I'm happy with it. Sure. Sabrina?
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. You are saying the table, this is the one that you mentioned previously, right? So the comment, it says about the research gaps. So just the grammatical error is there. So means it should be with S.
Exactly. That was, for example, one comment. But usually you even don't get that.
All right.
You know,
Thanks.
some of the examiners are doing and going so deep into that. I usually don't do that. I mean,
Okay.
track changes or something like that will show that. I just say English language or something like that. But I don't write comment like that. I don't write a comment like that. I write actually from my perspective. That's why, but I just wanted to show you what can be actually a variety, let's say, of comments. Some of them extremely easy, and that's done, and we go actually forward, no issue. But I will show you some others which are really much more demanding.
Thank you, Prof.
Even here, the next one, research question. Okay, that's another one with grammatical, not are but is. So that was easy, something like that. But still, go respond and show. That's what I'm trying to show you right now. You see, and don't forget, thank you for these kind of suggestions, stuff like that. That's another thing which comes at the end. Really be kind, appreciate actually what they have done for you. And it's nice that you show that and you write it. Maybe even you are actually extremely angry and unhappy, but don't show that. It's always thank you for your suggestion. Thank you for your advice. Thank you for guiding me and stuff like that. Do that. Show that you are actually ready and happy to improve stuff. Okay? Because I spent a lot of time. Okay? I read the PhD, as I said, in 2 days, and then I usually prepare my report another day. That means 3 days to 4 days are going actually into your PhD in order to make it better. Because I could even just say, you know, it's not good, improve it. Or I could say, I'll fail that student. Why should I bother? You know, understand that we are trying actually, and through the comments, the more the comments, the better. The more detailed they are, the better. That's what I'm trying to say. So in case you get really detailed one, that's okay. Okay, and here, as you see, here was actually research question is, and that means, and then you show in the second, in the 1, 2, 3, or in the third column, you show where you have actually changed that. That means the research question was presented, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, 7 times or something like that. And you have changed that every single time. Show that you have done that. Okay? Or another one, let's go to this one. A few recent references that need to be added in section, okay? So that the given statements, that means what you have stated, are supported by the relevant literature. And then you go with your student's reply. Thank you for your valuable suggestion and advice on this. And then you say that you have enhanced actually and added all those authors in order to justify or support with the recent literature your statements. Okay? Does it make sense? Are we still following? You can write something like that. And then the next slide will show how you have done that. That will be done, let's say, marked in the thesis. Okay? Here I wrote revised text in the thesis. Everything what is in brown, it was added. So the black sentence or 3 sentences were old, and everything what is now in another color, that is what the student has added. And added based on the literature sources which are presented before. Okay? And when I see that, I say, okay, zack, 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 clear, makes sense. The student has worked on that, has improved that. I will probably read those 2, let's say, pages or something like that, or maybe I don't know how many I have requested, and then I say perfectly fine. So I will not read the whole thesis once again, but I'll just check the highlighted areas and the highlighted sections, and probably I just have 2 or 3 which are really important, and I will read those, and based on that I'll be happy and say perfectly fine, we are there. Okay, help us to understand and to see what you have actually changed. Okay, so that's kind of my let's say message. Here is another one. Let's say, in my opinion, the author has made all the necessary steps of a scientific research, and the thesis clearly contributes to the relevant literature. If you get a sentence like that, you can say perfectly fine. The examiner was happy with me, unless he or she wouldn't write something like that, but wants to have actually some improvements. and let us do that. Perfectly fine. But I passed, I'm definitely there. He will not bother me anymore. And then, let's say the examiner recommended that said the following recommendations or recommendation could be made. As the fourth limitation, blah, 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 and so on, okay? He said what he would like to do, to have, that the students will do. And then you read actually the comments, and then you go and answer in that way. Let's say, students reply, changes to the section AB, limitations. The fourth limitation proposed by the examiner, or 1, has been added. And then you say on page 1, for example, say on 8, I added that. And the last sentence says or presents what has been changed. So make us understand that you have done it and show us what you have done it. As I said, it depends how you will do that. I suggest to the students to use the tables because that makes it even easier for us to follow. And as I said, highlight the text. Okay.
Okay, bro.
Or for example, another one, as I said, I will not go in every detail right now. Here it was kind of mentioned that the stuff was rather lengthy. It's useful, but it's too long and should be shortened. And the student has done or has presented actually kind of the same thing 3 times. And yeah, the last sentence says actually the recommendation, the author, that means the student, should consider shortening these sections. And the student has done that, replied how and what he has done. And then definitely in the text, as I mentioned, this part will be colored in another color and highlighted. Okay, so another case, for example, in this case, the introduction was kind of under attack, should I say. And the comments were, the introduction lacks structure and order, making it hard for the reader to filter out the information which is necessary at this stage of the thesis. That's a quite strong, actually, comment, but once again, it goes toward the student. And if I would show you what I have written to him, it was exactly the same stuff, but he was not ready anymore to change that. But if he had to, actually, then afterwards. So, for example, what's the purpose of this study? That was not there. While all the information is included in the chapter, the interchange of references to the theory complicates what should be a simple and more linear story. So it was quite a big stuff actually to change that. Then candidate answered, modified and added notes to address the examiner's comments to make the chapter more structured and to present the case properly by highlighting the significance, purpose of the study, kind of research gaps, objectives, research questions, and key findings under following sections. So the students had to rewrite actually almost the first chapter. And that's kind of unpleasant stuff, but he showed what he has done. And if we go here, that is how it looked like, okay? Everything what was marked in blue was linked to this first comment, chapter 1. And you see he has done actually quite many changes in the first chapter and clearly highlighted what he has changed. So that's the way how it usually goes. As I said, first of all, you will have a table where you will be presenting what you have actually done, explain it, and then in the thesis, the changes should be clearly marked as well. And that makes it extremely nice for us. I have a table, see what you have done. I open actually page, I see you have done it. I scanned through it and I said, okay, perfectly fine, that's done. Okay, or something like that. As I said, I will not go in more details. I guess we have discussed in quite a clear way how should be done. Here, examiner's comment, qualitative analysis to be justified in the methodology. That means it was not clearly said why and how the qualitative methodology has been selected and how it was performed, and some more comments. And the student then actually has tackled that. And once again, the brown text is what, for example, one part he has added. And here he has kind of explained why qualitative methodology was selected. Kind of the study of mergers in India therefore requires an in-depth study of key features, and this could be best provided by seeking the view of stakeholders in such a process. The qualitative approach can secure information, blah, blah, and stuff like that. Okay, so he has explained in detail. That was quite a heavy, actually. That was really a big major revision, but he passed because he has done actually quite a good job in his revision. And that was another one where the comment was about thematic analysis, and he was asked to present the, let's say, themes which emerged from the or after the content analysis. And then on the other side, what were the constructs and how they were linked actually to the theory. And that is actually how he has finally added or adjusted his thesis. Okay. Any questions to this one?
Not from my side.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and now this last part, what I have mentioned, we should be kind of, kind, polite, not aggressive, not emotional and stuff like that, okay? So that was my student, and that's why I brought that. It was a lady who was really actually upset after she received the feedback. And she reacted quite fast and a little bit hasty. So the examiner's comment. I mean, you know, in a way, that goes actually towards Sarah a little bit as well. So the examiner read that and he considered it as a PhD, but that was not a PhD, but it was a DBA. And we know that actually, especially the theoretical, let's say, part is in a DBA not so strong, and we do not request that even. But that guy who read actually that the DBA or examined the DBA was considering it as a PhD, and so he wrote, in terms of contents, the PhD thesis should at least contain 3 papers or 3 important chapters. And then he wrote even in relation to the conventional PhDs. And the student was kind of really angry. And what she wrote is in red here, kind of in a negative way. And it is not required to have that many papers or an extensive theoretical involvement as suggested by the examiner is not required, you know. And what I wrote when I read that, I wrote, soften this statement, please. Okay, because that is definitely not the way how we should do that. I do agree, and even I said, okay, the examiner made a mistake because that's a DBA, it's not a PhD. So focus on the contributions which are requested and linked to a DBA. But still, we don't write something like that. And then we said soften that, and she has actually kind of softened it and is actually then in the lower part, the things were written a little bit in a different way. And the examiner understood that, and he was not kind of upset anymore. And my student passed actually without any additional comments. But you definitely see, I mean, the red part, and then actually the other one, when we say and as this is a DBA study, the number of papers of extensive theoretical involvement required for a PhD are typically not needed. It is suggested that the examiner comment of having 3 papers is not required in this instance. It's written a little bit a different way, as we said, kindly, politely, and that is how we should do it. So don't be, don't show that you're angry, and don't show that you are too emotional, because emotions, are not kind of helping in this case. So let us go actually towards a conclusion.
But before you go to the next, sir.
Sure.
I'm just wondering as whether the examiner had read the thesis for him to make such a comment. The assumption from the student, I think, could have been that he had gone through the whole document and he really understood the whole thing.
See,
unfortunately, he also became so negative in the answering.
As I said, I was surprised as well, actually. This comment was not okay, but based on other comments, I concluded that the examiner has read every single page, because there were quite many comments, even small comments. However, it looks like, and that is quite typical, that in many countries, they do not know the DBA. They are not familiar with the DBA. For example, if you go to Europe, in Europe, probably only the UK is kind of offering, let's say, a DBA study.
Okay.
But the other not. And if you go to some other countries, it's the same thing. So it looks like that in this case, we selected, or university selected a examiner who was not familiar with the DBA compared to a PhD. Because the other comments were okay, you know, I mean, it was kind of, you know, clear what he wanted, and it was clear, and it was clear that he understood the topic and the methodology and everything. But that comment was really actually, as I said, even for me, it was actually not okay. And after that, I have to admit that we started then actually to pick and to check whether the selected examiners or proposed examiners were aware of the difference, let's say, this slight difference between a DBA and PhD.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, let's say, a lesson learned for us as well. But
Sure.
yeah, but still, you know, you should not be kind of, yeah, too unhappy. Should I say that? Makes no sense.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I did ask. I followed the question because that was going to be my question at the end of the discussion. Now it is being answered just here.
Yeah. Okay. So
how
yeah,
do you handle somebody who seemed to be off, an examiner who seemed to be a bit off from the study? How do you handle such a one? I think you have answered it.
See, I mean, you know, we you know, how should I say? I'm going through this. I'm going through this roller coaster. Actually, whenever we are, not whenever, but often when we are publishing a paper, it's a similar thing. You get 2 or 3 reviewers, and all of them come with some ideas. And sometimes you say, "Oh God, what's going on? I mean, why is that needed? I mean, it makes no sense," and stuff like that. You know, but you get used to it in a way, and then you are better in handling it. But in a PhD or DBA, it is for the majority of the students for the first time, and that's why they react in a little bit a different way. But it's always kind of, you know, even now, I mean, as I said, if I start actually talking about my experience in some papers, you have the 2, let's say, examiners or reviewers in this case who are happy after the first revision, everything's clear, and then comes somebody and picks, you know, and that's not there, and maybe that sentence should be actually rewritten, and that, I mean, it's not contributing to the, let's say, overall quality. It is just, you know, yeah, but we have to survive, and we have actually kind of to deal with that as well. You have to make them happy. If they're not happy,
exactly,
they will not actually kind of sign off, and then you will, I don't know, sometimes just lose, I don't know, half a year or something like that of your work. It makes no sense.
In my opinion, I think the more comment is the better, because they are care.
Yeah, but as I said, let us be yeah, polite, and that's the next sentence. It actually ends with the reply in a polite way. That's really important. But as we said, we mentioned that we should provide a list how you have done it. Okay, that means those 3 or 4 columns. make all the corrections. As we mentioned in the beginning, do not pick the nice ones or the easy ones. You just have to do all of them. Present them in the table as well as highlight them in the thesis, in the revised thesis. Reply to all those comments as we have shown clearly how you have actually done that, what you have changed, why you have changed and stuff like that. Discuss all the revisions with the supervisors. As I said, that's extremely important. They have to agree on that as well. I mean, if they don't, I mean, you know, I usually work with my students anyway in that way, that we are discussing everything, but some of them don't. But you have to come back to them and ask for feedback. And at the end, once or maybe even twice, just check once again all the list of the two reviewers or examiners. Check that in detail, and then yeah, you are probably ready to go. And really take your time and do it actually in a proper way. So it's, as I said, especially, and you will see that actually in their report, especially if the examiners are asking to check your revision or your revised thesis once again. If they request that, that means you really have to go actually and do it in a best possible way. If it's kind of suggested that, let's say, the university should check that, then it's a little bit easier for you. But if they want to read it, if they want to check it, you have to go actually through that in detail.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof.
Okay, and that's, I guess, the last slide. In a way, what is your final doc? That's exactly what I was trying to say. It's, you know, the first version and the second version and the fourth and the fifth final version, the sixth and so on. So don't get upset, just work hard, because you have spent a lot of time on your PhD or your DBA, probably 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and so on. Just keep calm and work for another, let's say 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And after that, it's done, you are done. Okay. So that's probably everything for today. Any additional questions we have not addressed during the webinar? If you do have them, always happy actually to reply to your answer to your questions.
Bastian, may I suggest you switch?
Anna.
Hi there. Yeah, sorry, I arrived a bit later. May I suggest you switch off the recording just in case people would like to be in. Like if you stop sharing, it's easier, Bastian.
Yeah, I just have to come on the other side because I have to stream. So now I'm here. Now I'm here. Now I can do that.